The Carolina Hurricanes are in a dogfight for first place in the Metropolitan Division. Jared Ellis of Locked On Hurricanes is here to talk to us about it as the Hurricanes head toward the end of the NHL season.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to the Locked On NHL podcast. So glad you could join us, and thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. The Carolina Hurricanes are fighting for first place with the New York Rangers in the Metropolitan Division, and it's great to have Jared Ellis of Locked On Hurricanes back to talk about his team. And Jared, a little bit of a rough patch the last two games, a disappointing loss to Detroit and a tough loss to Colorado. What is the emotional state of your team now after these last two games?
I would say this rough patch, honestly, you mentioned those last two losses, but I would say it honestly goes back to the beginning of March. It's been off and on, stop and start. Really, since then, they've really been up and down in terms of obviously wins and losses, offensive production, penalty kill success rate, and just all that stuff. It's going on there. I don't know what it is. Honestly, definitely the feeling right now is almost a bit of frustration because this team is better than that. I know that. You know it. They know that. And with you at that game against Colorado, we don't know as of this recording the state of Jordan Staal and Frederik Andersen, but you lose your captain and your Vezina caliber goaltender in that game, and guys got to step up. And thankfully, in that Colorado game, heading into that game, the power play had been 0 for 17 on their previous 17 opportunities, and yeah, Andrei Svechnikov was able to kind of break that streak and get his 30th goal of the season, which was nice. But just as a whole, seems like we're cooling off when we should be heating up heading into the playoffs. Freddie, he's having an MRI tomorrow today on Monday, and Jordan Staal, really no word as of right now, but that's looking like it possibly be a concussion. So we'll just have to wait and see on that stuff.
Yeah, concussion's always tricky. Could be a day or two, could be significantly longer. Who are some of the players, especially if Staal is going to miss a little time, who you feel are the keys to turning this around and righting the ship right now?
I feel, his line with Nino Niederreiter and Jesper Fast, they've been the Hurricanes' most consistent best line all season long. So obviously his line mates stepping up, of course, and continuing the success that they've been having throughout the year. But I've said multiple times on Locked On Hurricanes that this team is at their best when it's everyone up and down the lineup chipping in. And that includes your top guys, Sebastian Aho, Teuvo Teravainen, Andrei Svechnikov, Vincent Trocheck, as well as your depth guys, like Derek Stepan and Steven Lawrence, then guys on defense as well. When everyone is on the same page and clicking, this team is at their best. So it's not one where you can necessarily pin it down to just one or two guys. It's literally everyone on that team needs to step up.
As far as getting first place in the division is concerned, how important is that for Carolina this year?
I think it's important. Obviously, we can see where the wild card stuff ends up of who we'd be facing, but I think it's very important for this team to win the division because, if you get second place, you'll have some home ice advantage in the playoffs. They want it the entire way because PNC Arena is a notoriously tough place for opponents to come in and play. You have guys say that every time it's brought up when they get interviewed about playing in Raleigh. I think it's very important for them to have as many advantages as they can heading into the postseason, and a big part of that is going to be winning Metro, getting to play the majority of your games at home in Raleigh. And I think that that's something that they're going to need, especially if you're going to be down some folks heading into the playoffs. Be at home where you feel comfortable. Yeah, they've been a really good road team this year, but they're best when they're at home able to feed off the energy of their own fans.
If Frederick Anderson is out for a significant amount of time, and we don't know that as of now, but how confident are you in Antti Ranta or any of the other goalies in the organization to start the playoffs?
That's one that it's a bit of a tough decision, really. Obviously, Antti Ranta, he's been on as late. He's been really good, and it's not that he can't play at all. Yeah, he obviously can play. It's honestly, can his body hold up, especially if he has to be the guy heading into the playoffs. It's not a concern of him not being able to play. It's can his body hold up. And as far as guys getting called up, I know Alex Lyon is hurt, so it will be him. And Jack LaFontaine, he's been kind of more. He just got called back up to the AHL because Lyon getting hurt, but he definitely ain't going to be it. Nothing against the guy. He needs some time to develop some more. And actually, earlier today, I'm not going to try to pronounce the last name because I have not yet learned how to pronounce it. But their goalie they signed from the KHL, Peter. Again, I do not know how to pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to try to butcher that and make people mad. But he was called up earlier this afternoon. He's the reigning AHL goalie of the month, and he's looked really, really good. And he's been really dominant. Sarah Ampada from Locked On Kings, Locked On AHL, she covers the Chicago Wolves for Case Country, so she's seen a bunch of this kid, and she's said just how good he is. There's a lot of potential there. I know a lot of folks have been saying, watch him come up and just take control and go off and be the guy heading into the playoffs. Yeah, and I would obviously love for that to happen. Have him pull a 6 Cam Ward if you come in as a rookie and just go off. That'd obviously be great, but we'll just have to wait and see when it comes to that.
Should be an interesting stretch drive. Final 4 games of the year, all against division opponents. Do you think that bodes well or poorly for the schedule?
It'll be interesting to see. I think whether or not it goes good or bad, I think we'll kind of have to wait and see how these injuries pan out. But it'll make for an interesting thing because you obviously cover a Metro team as well on Locked On Islanders. And you can attest to when these teams play each other, no matter where they're at in the division standings, they always bring a little bit extra when they play each other. And, like the Islanders and Devils, they're pretty much out of it at this point. But they can still spoil the party, So it could just be going in their team with nothing left to lose at this point. Just go in there and, lack of a better term, have fun and ruin the Hurricanes' playoff standings. They could very well do that, and it'll be interesting to see how things shape up with these 2 injuries because I think that's going to have a very big bearing on this last stretch of games and headed into the playoffs.
No question. Jared, why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find the podcast on any and all streaming platforms. So it'll be on whatever you're listening to this show on. You can find it on YouTube at Locked On Hurricanes, and you can find the show on Twitter and Instagram at LO_Hurricanes, and myself on Twitter at JaredEllis_96.
Excellent. Jared, thanks so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.